My mother's last wish was that I have this grand wedding. She passed away before she could see it, but she left me everything, all the money, so I got the best venue, I got the best cake, I got the best of everything. Turns out my stepfather had other plans because he was in charge of the money, and a week before the wedding, he tells me, you know what? I'm not giving you this money. I'm going to give it to my biological daughter, not you. Well, guess what I decide to do?
Hey guys, I'm Stella, and I'm thrilled to tell you that I'm going to get married to the love of my life, my soulmate and my best friend Jason. What I'm not so thrilled to share is a whole evil stepfather and stepsister story. I really feel like the protagonist of a princess movie. It makes the situation sound less grave than it actually is. I'm writing this because I really do not have anyone to share any of this with. I can't even talk to my fiancé about this because it'll make him flip. I'm just super stressed right now and I need some suggestions. I don't have time either, but I took some time to write this because I really need to just let it out. I'm writing this when I'm actually supposed to be at a relaxing spa or getting my hair done. So, all of you lovely ladies and gentlemen too know how important the wedding day is. Everything has to be perfect. I thought everything was going to be perfect until my stepdad, who's 73, decided to pull out the funds he promised for my wedding. He was supposed to pay for the wedding, and now he's just straight up refusing to do it last minute. And to top it all off, the money he's refusing to give me is my mother's hard-earned money that she had left for me. It's too late to fix this because I've already given everybody an advance and booked everything. Now, I can't change my plans nor take the advance back. There's only 1 week left until my wedding, and there's no going back at this point. There's either the cancel everything or get your butt up and arrange something. The whole wedding might even get canceled, and that's definitely not a good omen. I just don't know what to do. You might have so many questions, so let me try to explain how I landed in this mess. I have to go way back so all of you comprehend. My real father tragically passed away when I was just a child, and my mother found a man 2 years later and got married to a divorced man, my stepfather, George. About a year later, they had my half-sister, Emma. The 4 of us have been living together as a seemingly perfect family, and I used to call him Dad, but let me tell ya, that changed to George later. As a child, I did not make an effort to hide that George is not my real dad. I was old enough to remember my dad when he died, and my mother missed my dad very dearly and brought him up frequently in her conversations. My mother and real father were childhood sweethearts, and I would often hear stories about them from my mother. My mother tried so hard to raise Emma and me with undivided love and affection, and she wanted to make sure there was no favoritism and we were raised equally. This was not reciprocated by George. There was a vivid bias between me and Emma. Emma also took advantage of the favoritism to get everything she wanted growing up. Many times my mother would confront George about it, but he'd just say Emma's the younger child and she needed more attention. He would often overcompensate for this non-bias by boasting to his friends, or who never asked in the first place, that he treated us equally, even though I am his stepdaughter. He took immense pride in being a man who made a girl with no father his daughter. His image and reputation mattered the most to him, and the way he showed everyone I was treated was far from the truth. I've never really shared the details about how he treated me to anybody because I was too scared of his reaction to his reputation being tarnished by my truth. After all, I wanted to live at his house and would have nowhere else to go. I did not want to make things worse for me, so I spent my whole childhood and teenage years with my mouth shut and accepting anything that was just flung at me. I stayed silent when I got hand-me-downs from his brother's children, whereas Emma got new stuff whenever she wished. I didn't mind when I didn't get as many gifts as everybody else, but I cried in silence when I was bullied for not having the trendy stuff that was apparently important to get through school. Even at the dining table, Emma would always get what she wanted, and when she wasted food, I had to eat the leftovers. He had a habit of gatekeeping stuff like food, and he had taught Emma to do the same. They would constantly hide stuff so I won't eat or use it, and Emma got everything she desired and would not share anything with me. She would not hide it in the fear that I would take all her stuff, and all this was instilled and encouraged by George. My mother tried her best to teach her better, but had no power over her, as Emma was conditioned to be extremely greedy. My mother provided as much as she could, and she tried to give me what I needed as much as possible, but it caused a rift between her and Emma because she would not do the same for Emma due to her limitations. Emma felt jealous when my mother used to bring stuff for me and not her. My mother tried her best to cover up as to why she brought stuff just for me and not for her. She could not afford to get for the both of us, so she chose me over Emma, because she already knew George would get it for her anyways. Things were always a bitterness between my mother and Emma, and this gave George an opportunity to spoil her further. My mother was the only one who understood my woes, but now I have no one. Unfortunately, she passed away 2 years ago. She loved Jason and hoped that we would marry soon, and I feel bad that she's not around to be part of the celebrations, and she wanted to see us get married, and now she isn't here. After she died, George and Emma are the only family I have left. I still live with them, and they treat me like I am their maid. I do all the cooking and cleaning while they just sit and order me around, and their behavior has gotten worse ever since my mom passed away. If I argue with them, they remind me that they're taking care of me even though I'm an orphan. I started spending most of my days at Jason's. I still stay at George's house out of respect for his loving extended family, and I'm always invited to family get-togethers because I have a good equation with them. They don't really know about the favoritism between me and Emma that much, and George tries to hide it the best that he can. He acts as if though he's the nicest father, and has so much care and concern for me in front of them. George's family treats me as their own, and they're always kind to me and were kind to my mother too. They really took care of me when my mom passed. Their grieving phase was extremely difficult for me because I was so close to my mom. I felt like I'd lost everything in this world, and they were the ones who consoled me and held me together. So, how did I meet my fiancé? I'm a high school teacher, and that's how I met Jason 5 years ago at summer camp. It was love at first sight. Jason is also a high school teacher at another school nearby, and my mother had made George promise that I'd have a grand old wedding on her deathbed. You know, it was her final wish. She had left all her savings for our wedding, and she could not have a lavish wedding herself both the times she was married. She just wished that we would have it, and, well, she never got it. When Jason proposed to me, I was ecstatic, and George and Emma were the first people I told. They were happy for me, so it seemed. My mother had left a substantial amount for me and Emma, so we could have the wedding we wanted. I told George we did not have to spend as much and that Jason and I were fine with plain and boring weddings. We really want to save up for a place of our own and use the money for that. But George wanted to keep the promise he made to my mother. After all, it was her last wish. I went along with it and convinced Jason that we should respect my mother's wishes. He was happy, if that's what I really wanted. The idea of a fairy tale wedding sounded like an absolute dream come true, and I discussed the budget with George, and he was very generous. George was also involved in a lot of decisions and made sure everything was extravagant. Suddenly, George started acting very nice to me. It was too busy with the preparations to even suspect much. I dismissed it as I thought he was genuinely happy and I was getting married. Jason and I still insisted that it was not necessary, but he kept on bringing up how it was his duty to fulfill my mother's wish. I booked everything according to the budget George had allocated for my wedding. George kept the financial matters to himself and did not give me much control. I did not argue very much. I trusted him. I decided on the most serene venue, a beautiful dress, and everything else I wanted. I had booked and paid the advance for everything for my beautiful spring wedding. I sent everyone the save the dress dates as early as I could. I was so excited, but had no idea what was coming. 2 weeks before the D-Day, George called me downstairs to talk. He told me that Emma was upset, and I asked him what was wrong, and he went on about how Emma feels insecure, that nothing would be left for her wedding even if it's way in the future. She felt that our mother had always had a bias towards me, and that she should have her dream wedding too, you know. Emma did not want her wedding to be less pomp than mine would be. George defended her and said she was just a child, and that if she feels insecure that my wedding would be better than hers, then I should have a more low-key wedding. He flipped everything on me and called me extremely selfish for wanting this extravagant wedding. Well, I told him that he was the one who encouraged all this, you know. He gave the excuse that he was just respecting my late mother's wishes. But I should have been the one thinking about my sister. Emma and George went as far as making allegations against my mother, that she did not treat both the daughters equal, whereas George never had a bias. They started gaslighting me. They spewed utter bullcrap out of their mouths, and George had told me that he's given most of the money my mom left me, but now he realized that Emma should have some of it too. He decided that he would not be paying the rest of the wedding, and I explained that, no, I'd already made commitments that I simply could not cancel, George. He dismissed me by saying that Jason and I are adults, and that we should be able to pay for it on our own, and he condemned me for not having enough money for my own wedding, calling me dumb, stupid, for not earning nearly enough. He insulted Jason by saying that I should not be marrying him if he can't even pay for a, quote, party, and I could not really stand anything negative being said about Jason. It was all too much to take. It was the tears that flooded my eyes, and then the panic crept up my back and rage filled inside me. I screamed and shouted that this was unfair, George. He should have waited and told me in the first place, and not back out now. Emma and George thought I was just selfish for not considering Emma. I stormed out in anger and just went to my room. I cried the whole night, and I could not tell Jason because he would worry too much. He was against all this in the first place, and I wanted to cancel everything, but I did not want to waste my mother's hard-earned money. I could not let everything go down the drain. I called everyone I could to cancel as much as possible, and I canceled my dress, I canceled the cake, and somehow begged them to cancel the flowers so I could get some of the advances back, and I begged the caterers, but they wouldn't budge. I tried to go back to George. I thought that maybe he'd give me the money now and I'd return it later. That's when I found out about his real intentions, and I was coming home from school and my neighbor Liz called me in for a cup of tea and said she wanted to tell me something. She told me that everything George did for the wedding was just an act. She was eavesdropping on George and Emma, talking on the patio. Liz is a very nosy neighbor. George wanted to create a situation that would embarrass me in front of everybody. He deliberately stopped paying for my wedding right when everything was done and ready. He knew that 2 weeks was a very short time to arrange such a big amount, and he knew that I simply would not be able to do anything at all in such a short span of time. Plus, it was his money that was not going down the drain. It was my mother's. Why would he do this, you ask? George always envied the immense love my mother had for my real father. A very long time ago, George made fun of my father at a party. He made fun of his death and how it was a stupid way to go. He fell off a roof trying to fix it. I immediately stepped in and defended my father. I slammed him for his utterly disgusting comments. I stopped calling him father from that day on and called him George. The whole event had embarrassed George in front of his friends and family, and everyone agreed that his comments were unnecessary and vile. It caused quite an argument, and a lot of damage was done in his reputation. One argument led to another, and, well, it caused quite a stir-up in the family. Everyone fought with him and said he needs to make amends for his behavior. It wrecked the relationship between him and my mother completely. A lot of people gossip about the incident. Since then, everyone's been giving him the cold shoulder, and what he said was not my fault, I just reacted. He blamed the whole drama on my reaction and said that no one would have even said anything if I did not stir up such a ruckus. He was just waiting for the right opportunity to take revenge and embarrass me in front of friends and family. He does not care about me or my wedding. Liz sympathized and told me that I should fight. At that point, I did not think that would work. He did what he wanted to. It was all just a ruse. My mother left me money, and he used it the way to embarrass me and take revenge for something so petty. It happened so long ago that I'd even forgotten about it. Mind you, it was his fault, and he was the one who crossed the line. He's infamous for going to extreme lengths to get revenge for the smallest things, petty. Even if I had not said anything, he would have lost respect anyways. He should not have spoken out about someone who died in that way. I genuinely thought that he had a small space in his heart for me, and that's why he was trying to arrange my wedding. Emma, my sister, was involved in this too. They wanted to take revenge, and they found that spoiling the biggest day of my life would be a perfect way to do so. My hatred for both of them grew, and Emma was not that young to not understand how grave this was. George is an a-hole anyways, and has no regard for people's sentiments whatsoever. I should have never trusted him. I should have suspected something like this would happen when they changed their behavior. I could have never imagined that something like this would even happen. I can't fathom what's going on at all. I'm in a really messed up situation right now with no one to help me, and there are a lot of things I have to pay for and just can't cancel. I also have to get a replacement for the stuff I managed to scrap. I could not marry without a dress, and I need a cake too. The venue is the biggest concern. I've already sent out invitations and still have to pay a huge sum for the venue. I tried so hard to replan the whole wedding with what I had, but all in vain. It was not enough. The damage is done, and now I have to find a way out of this. There's only just more than a week left until my wedding, and there's so much left to do. My friends have also planned a bachelorette party just to surprise me, and I have to find a way to accommodate everything. Can anyone, please, help me out and tell me what I should do in this situation? I'm really scared to tell Jason the truth, and the only thing coming to my mind is that if I take out debt for my wedding, I can't think of anything that the date is nearing. Any suggestions, please? What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you guys are having a great day. Oh man, stepfather drama. This story is insane, but just wait, because update number 1 is wild. I hope you guys are enjoying your day so far. Let's go ahead and jump into the first update. If you're not subscribed to the channel, take a second. Hit that subscribe button. Here's your first update. Oh my gosh, guys, I did not expect a quick response for so many people. I'm typing this as I'm writing for my gals of my bachelorette party, and a lot of you advised me to get a crowdfund, but there was just not enough time, and also, I did not want to make my wedding feel like a cause or a burden. There are more important things that need funding than my wedding, but thanks for the support. To the people who advised me to tell Jason, you were right. I was extremely scared and reluctant, but I did go and talk to him and my in-laws, and Jason was extremely mad. The whole situation made him anxious because he did not want to do either. It was a nightmare. We did not want to cancel anything. We could not spend what we had because we'd already committed to a house, and we were also going on a honeymoon, and we can't go with empty bank accounts, you know. My mother-in-law, Regina, was very understanding of the situation. She could not see our wedding being ruined, so she volunteered to pay for the rest of the wedding. I promised her I'd pay her back, but she said that it's not necessary. She wants a grand wedding for her son too, but Jason just doesn't like the spending. She'd actually saved up for a little trip with my father-in-law, Ray. Jason was not very happy about the whole situation, and he wanted to go and give George a piece of his mind, but I stopped him. We also had a little argument over it, but we sorted things out eventually, and now he's happy. Regina came along with me to help me with last-minute errands. She even bribed the cake shop for a last-minute order. She pulled out the wedding dress that she had preserved very well and let me alter it however I pleased. Regina turned out to be an absolute lifesaver. I could not thank her enough. I spent a whole week with her and my maid of honor, Beth, doing the rest of the arrangements and trying to save my wedding as much as I can. It's the most fun I've had in ages. We went shopping, to the spa, and for cocktails, and so even threw a low-key bridal shower for me at her house. And when everything was done, Regina admitted she always wanted to have a daughter, and she finds a daughter in me. I was touched and reminded of my mother. We had a talk about my rough childhood and immensely bonded, and I started calling her Ma instead of Regina. I'm extremely happy everything turned out well, and the whole thing brought me so much closer to my in-laws. I'm glad they're so supportive. I also spoke to George and told him that we should put all the arguments aside and focus on the wedding. I did not tell him that I had made arrangements. I lied, that I had only kept the venue and canceled everything else. I told him I somehow managed to get a refund, and he must be thinking that his plan worked. I want Emma and George to be so shocked and burning with jealousy at my wedding. I hope everything goes well, though. I'm having pre-wedding jitters, and hopefully they'll go away. I'll update you all with their reactions to the wedding ASAP. Thank you. Update number 2. Hey everyone, I finally married, and I wanted to share the update mostly about George and Emma, as I promised. The wedding was spectacular. It was a grand affair and everything had turned out as we planned. There were a few mishaps here and there in the arrangements, but I guess it happens. I did find a way to take revenge for what they did to me. Nothing big, just a little drama at my wedding. George is afraid of being embarrassed in front of everyone, and I used it to my advantage. I had quite literally nothing to do on the day before my wedding. My bridesmaids were looking after everything, and they forced me into my room and told me to relax. I was alone, so my tendency to overthink kicked in, and the whole drama made me so angry that I could not just let it go. I definitely had to do something. I too wanted to embarrass him in front of everyone, and the wedding was the perfect occasion. Everyone he knew would be there, but I was extremely reluctant to do something that would ruin my precious wedding moments. I could not let a fit of rage spoil my wedding. I still wanted to do something, so I finally gave in and hatched a plan that would fit perfectly. I made a slideshow with pictures of my deceased father and mother. My cousin is into vlogging, and he actually recorded my mother's last days. He also had a recording of the part where my mother talked about her daughter's wedding. The wedding day went as planned. We took our vows and headed to town's reception. Traditionally, we would have a father-daughter dance, but instead I played the emotional slideshow of my father's pictures. I wish I would have taken a picture of the jealousy on his face. Then I played a slideshow of my mother's pictures, ending with a video of my mother talking about my wedding and George promising her to spend on my wedding. The room was filled with mixed emotions, and I was in tears. I then took the opportunity to thank my in-laws for fulfilling my mother's wish and bearing the entire expense for my wedding when my stepfather did not. I had prepared a whole carefully thought-out speech about it. Heads turned to George, and the whole situation was an embarrassment to him. My uncle, George's brother, was not happy. He asked about the money that was left from my wedding in a private conversation. George blurted out that I was a lying jerk, and that he actually paid for half of the wedding. So, My uncle started to ask a few questions, and eventually George told him the truth because, well, he simply could not cover it up anymore. There was a heated argument between them, and the damage to his reputation was done. Everyone saw the video, and now everyone believes that my in-laws were the ones who paid for my wedding. The fact that everyone knows that he did not keep his promise made George furious. It was very talked about at the wedding, and everybody slyly commented that George was not capable of keeping his promise even though my mother had left money. Many guests even questioned him about what he did with the money, and I kept intervening and telling everyone that it was just for Emma, so that everyone knows what a biased jerk he is. The wedding was a hard time for him. He forced a smile for the entire wedding, and he could not even leave early. I know he wanted to. After the wedding, my uncle made my father pay back the amount which was meant for my wedding since it was my mother's hard-earned money and he had no right to keep it to himself. I gave the money back to my in-laws, and they were planning to go on a holiday that they wanted to go to. I and Jason also left for our honeymoon shortly after the wedding. Even though what I did was extremely petty, I think George deserves it. He did not just ruin my childhood, but he went as far as ruining my wedding for revenge and was extremely disrespectful to my parents who passed. I don't think I'll be contacting him much now that I have my own place. I don't even think they want to keep in touch anyways. I just want to take this opportunity to thank everybody who's been here with me in the comments, who's given me immense love and support, and the idea that my wedding was going to be ruined really scared me. Your comments and validation helped me a lot, so thank you.
Not exactly sure what George's problem was. I mean, the only reason he was mad to begin with is because he embarrassed, well, OP, and then she embarrassed him right back equally by saying, "How dare you talk about my passed away father in front of everyone?" So yeah, I think he deserved to look like an idiot in front of everybody. But who holds on to that petty resentment and turns it against OP and harbors all the money for him and his daughter? George, he got a lesson of karma. But I want to hear from you guys, what exactly you thought about it. So drop your comments down below, let's discuss it. If you guys are new to the channel, take a second, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys on the next one, and remember, it's cool to be kind.